guys, it's Ashley from Ash Art Books, and I'm here today to talk about different time periods that you can explore in historical romances. So if you're like me, you love historical romance, but sometimes I feel like I'm always picking up the same time period over and over again, because there is one in particular that I'll mention that a lot of books tend to be written in. So I thought it'd be kind of fun to dive into some different time periods, but also different time periods and locations, because sometimes I think the location is very different in the same time period from one spot to another, if that makes any sense. So today I've made a list of some different time periods, some that I really love and have some recommendations for, and then some that I'm really intrigued by and I would love to read books from this time period, but I haven't yet. And there are some on here that I'm really looking forward to reading, but I would also love to know if anyone has any recommendations for any of these time periods in historical romance, but specifically the ones that I haven't read yet. Please leave them down below, because myself and I'm sure a lot of other people would be really interested in seeing that. So the first time period that I think a lot of us know is Regency England. So this took place during the Regency era. A lot of romances are set during this time period, which is interesting because it's not that long of a time period, in time, but a lot of them are set during this period. I just wanted to mention this one first because I think we all kind of know this one. A lot of historical romances are set here. I could go on forever, but a couple are the Bridgerton series is set here. Some of Lisa Kleypas's books are set during the Regency era, but not all of them. I believe some of Stacey Reid's books are set during the Regency era, but not all of them. As I was compiling this list, I also became apparent that a lot of the books do not include dates at the beginning of the book. So it was a little bit challenging to figure out exactly the year and time period that some of my favorites took place. So if I get something slightly wrong, please forgive me and you can definitely let me know. Next time period I wanted to mention because I feel like it's growing in popularity, but I just love it and recommend it all the time. And that is Gilded Age romances, specifically ones set in New York City in the United States. I love this time period. I think they're fantastic. There's so much change and kind of evolution going on during this time period that I do think it makes for really interesting romances as the backdrop of a romance. My favorite author from this time period is definitely Joanna Shupe. I love her books. I've read books from 3 of her series. So the Knickerbocker Club series I read first and really enjoyed. Then the 400 series, which I think is my favorite right now, and then the Uptown Girls series, which I still need to finish. But all of those I would highly recommend, and I love them. Another author though that writes Gilded Age romances that I would love to check out but haven't yet is Maya Rodale. I know she has a whole series. I believe they're set in New York as well. I think most Gilded Age romances are set in New York, but if you have a recommendation set outside of that, I'd love to know. Next time period that I've read and really enjoyed is kind of Victorian. This is similar to Regency in my mind. They're both typically set in England or at least in Europe somewhere, which I would love to see some set outside of that. Victorian obviously takes place during the reign of Queen Victoria, which was quite a long time. So it's a wider range. Some of my favorites from this one, I believe the Ravenels are set during this time period by Lisa Kleypas, which is one of my favorite series of all time. So regardless of the time period, I would suggest it, but I believe it's set during the Victorian era. Another is The Madness of Lord Ian Mackenzie. I absolutely love this book. I read it last year, and I believe this is also set during this time period of Victorian, which is after Regency, in case anyone was wondering. Another era that I would love to see more historical romances set in is the 1920s. I just don't know why we don't have more, because I think it's just such a cool time period. Again, a lot of change was happening. I think both good and bad, probably. So I think it would be a really interesting time period to set romance. The only one I can think of that I've read that I would recommend is A Blues Singer to Redeem Him by Elle Jackson. I read this past year and really enjoyed, and that was set in the 1920s, and it had a speakeasy type of vibe, but also covered a lot of really important topics. But there's a couple others on my radar that I would love to get to. One of those on my radar that I would love to get to soon is King of the South by Calla Reid. This one's set during the 20s, and it just sounds amazing, and I really like the cover. But again, this is a time period I would love to explore more, and so hopefully in the future I can find a few new ones to check out. The next time period that is a big one for historical romance is kind of Westerns in like the 1800s. So I guess late 1700s, 1800s. Western expansion, usually set in the United States, going west and usually taking place in places like Texas and California and things like that. I actually have not read, I don't think, any Western historicals. I don't know why. So that's something I definitely need to do. And I know these kind of used to be a very big staple in the genre. I feel like I haven't seen as many recently, but I could just be me missing it. But a couple that are on my radar that I do want to read and pick up, because I do think it's a really interesting place to set a romance. And there's so many things. Obviously, it's more kind of wilderness. There's less law. So I feel like there could be a lot of plot points with that. Two that I'm really interested in trying to pick up soon is the Texas Destiny series by Lorraine Heath. I think Lorraine Heath is one of those authors that's very much so, at least in her older work, known for her Westerns and her Western historicals. And so that's one of her well-known books that I think would be really interested in picking up. And the other one is Forbidden by Beverly Jenkins. I've read Beverly Jenkins before, but I haven't read her Westerns. The one I read was set in New Orleans, I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering correctly. So I would love to check out something of hers from Western, because I already know I like her writing, and that setting and time period would be really cool. So another favorite of mine is kind of 1700s Highlands, Scotland. Think like Outlander time period, right? So I love this time period. I've read quite a few books from this kind of era, I guess you would call it, and really enjoyed them. I'm gonna recommend my favorite, which is Maya Banks, and I'm pretty sure they take place in the 1700s. But when I looked in the book, there's not actually a date. So again, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but you should still pick up the book because it's great. I love the Maya Banks series. I think it's fabulous. I've read most of the books in that series and they're all been top notch. So I love reading Highlander romances. I know Lindsay Sands has a lot set during this time period as well. I've read a few of hers and they're just chock full of like angst, drama, and I love it. So, if you like Outlander and you want something else, similar, I would try Maya Banks or Lindsay Sands. So the next time period is another one that I know was very popular, kind of when historical romance was first kind of becoming a thing, and that's medieval romances. I feel like not as many authors are writing any kind of medieval historical romances these days, which is a disappointment because I think it would be really cool. So the ones I'm familiar with, I haven't read, but are usually ones that I got from my grandma and her collection that she was reading, back, 30 years ago. One author I know that's very well known for her medieval is Kathleen Woodiwiss, and like The Wolf and the Dove. That's set, I think, in like 1066 or something. So long time ago. And I don't know if maybe that's why authors haven't written in medieval, just because it is so long ago and so many things have changed. But I do think it would be a great one. And if you have any more modern or recently published books that are medieval historical romances, please let me know, because I think that would be fantastic to pick up. The last time period I wanted to mention that I am just darn intrigued by, and I didn't even know it was a thing until recently, was Viking romances. I saw a couple of friends picking up Viking era romances and I thought it was so cool. I'm like, that's a great idea. Why has no one else done this before? I'm sure they have. I just probably didn't realize it. One that I am interested in picking up is the Viking Chiefs Marriage Alliance. I saw a couple of friends read this book and really enjoyed it, so it's definitely on my radar to pick up soon. All right, guys, so those are all of the historical time periods that I'm gonna talk about today. I think it's a really interesting idea of taking the kind of plot points and the tropes that we're all used to in kind of your typical, maybe like Regency era historical romance, and just putting it in a different time period. And as a history nerd, I mean, it sounds like the perfect storm to me. So I had a lot of fun making this list. Again, please let me know any recommendations that you have below, because I would love to know. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.